So let's talk about some of the big controversy going on with Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake. I put up my review roundup the other day, and a lot of you guys had a lot of interesting things to say about some of the reviews and what they said in those reviews, good and bad. But now there's a new thing, and it seems like a pretty common occurrence here when it comes to reviews and Eurogamer and the issue with what they had to say about the game. So I'm going to go over some of the things that are on one side and the other side, and we can kind of get down to it when it comes down to what's going on with the reviews of this game and what's going on with the game itself. We've got that plus some big news out of Japan when it comes to launch sales for a Nintendo Switch exclusive and the PS5 Pro. So we're going to get into that and so much more. But before we do, what's good everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, and click that notification bell to get my Nintendo Switch RPG, video game news, live streams, and more as soon as they drop. Now let's go ahead and jump right into this here Eurogamer's review and the controversy surrounding Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, because it's not just Eurogamer, it's also other places too. Some of the worst reviews when it comes to the review score that dropped the overall Metacritic for Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake was from people saying, I like the game, but I'm getting cooked, but there's too many old school things in here, but I gotta grind, I gotta level up to become the most powerful person and defeat a crazy evil in this world. I just want to go through it. I need modern options and all of that. So that is the big thing. So we're seeing most reviews are really good. I did the review roundup 84 or so, 80 plus, 8 out of 10 plus, most of the reviews. Now, the one that we're going to be focusing on is from Daniela Lucas from Eurogamer. And people basically were bashing the Eurogamer review. Even the happy console video game dude, he even had something to say about it, saying, hey, they don't know what they're talking about. Eurogamer gave the game a 3 out of 5 stars, which is pretty blasphemous for how good and how crazy this review is, right? So people are thinking, wait a minute, a 60 essentially for a game of this magnitude and what they've done with the game. It's really good. Obviously the game's out, people are playing it. It's fantastic. So people definitely had opinions on that. So Eurogamer initially said this: some excellent enhancements make Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake the ultimate version of Dragon Quest III, but it could still do more to make it a wholly welcoming to newcomers. So essentially, they're saying this. They're saying that this is the best version of a game that's already been heralded as one of the better JRPGs out there, because you wouldn't, or at least nobody did, give the original Dragon Quest III a 3 out of 5 or a 6 out of 10. So they're essentially saying because they didn't add what we wanted to, it makes the game worse, which is just, obviously people definitely had a problem with that. So shout outs to my man TM06. He actually had one of the best responses to this, but I want to get into what Daniela Lucas, the person who reviewed the game, first said, and then we'll go into the response in terms of what TM had to say. So Daniela says on Twitter, loving that all the comments on my Dragon Quest review are generally lovely discussions from people who do or don't love old school mechanics and are making opinions for themselves. But the ones under the tweet version are all, what the bleep is wrong with you? And then smiling or crying emojis, whatever. And then they also say, I absolutely adore Dragon Quest, but that doesn't mean I won't mention its flaws. I love the old school stuff, but I really think games should have more modern options for ease and accessibility. More options won't take away from the original experience if that's what you want. So fair enough on that one. So that's where my man TM comes in here, and he has a lot to say on that because he kind of just went off. We're going to start off with what he says first. He says, how much more accessibility do you need outside of metal, slime, and easy gold farming, which have been staples in Dragon Quest since the first game? Turning off random encounters or adding in quality of life found in the NES/SNES remasters of FF 1 through 6. Also adds that your review is you nagging about how the game is difficult, grindy, and isn't built for newcomers, which causes actual Dragon Quest fans to wonder if you played the franchise. 4 times the speed in battle makes grinding go by rather quickly. Difficulty in Dragon Quest games is almost non-existent if you use debuffs, buffs, and correct weapons, which has been a staple again in the franchise since its conception. You also fail to realize Dragon Quest isn't going to abide by Western standards. Armor Project makes the games how they see fit, not the user. Also adds this, for you, yourself to play and adore Final Fantasy XIV, which is grinding city, than to turn around and complain about Dragon Quest III Remake being grindy and not newcomer friendly is hilarious, especially when Dragon Quest is the least grindy JRPG to play, lol, including the MMO Dragon Quest X. But to be quite frank, the majority of Dragon Quest fans found your review to be rubbish and somewhat slanderous, but you're under Eurogamer, which is no surprise. You guys called a Lego game childish. This isn't an attack, so don't start crying wolf. You people need to do a better job. Goodness gracious, this man unloaded the whole clip, TM. But I think that when I was reading through the comment section on Eurogamer, on the Twitter page and all that, they all essentially said the same thing, but TM was nice enough to put it all in a multi-tweet thread there, and I think that's exactly it. There are so many quality of life options. There are so many things that make Dragon Quest easier. I don't even really see it as grinding too much or super grindy. And to be honest, like, I think that's part of what makes Dragon Quest Dragon Quest. Like, if you're going to be some type of all-encompassing evil or something like that, like, you can't walk in there at level 15, barely fighting anything, only fighting one monster on your way from town to town. Like, you've got to have at least some semblance of resilience and power in a long RPG where you're fighting against a worldwide threat or a nationwide threat. And it seems like a lot of modern gamers don't want to spend any time. They want everything done for them. They want all the modern options to automatically level you up and automatically do all sorts of things. And it's just like, what? It's not the game anymore if you do that. I get it. When you have like modern features, quality of life options, I get that. But at the same time, you can't gut the game and make it not what it is, because there's people who want to automatically beat bosses in a few different hits, or they're not very good. They don't want to use the options in the game, like the debuffs and the other different strategy. That's the whole point. And when you make a game like Dragon Quest, or you make a game like Metaphor or Shin Megami Tensei, or any of these games where you actually have to have a little bit of power before heading into boss fights and all that, it's the core essence of the game. It's the core essence of what makes it tick. If you remove those options and make it all modern and make it to where you can just body anything, you're not even really playing the game. You don't have to use the different classes or skills. You don't have to use the different weapons or even look for them, because you can just beat everything quickly. It becomes a non-game anymore. Now, I get people want to have their way to play games, but at the same time, the developers still have a certain way they'd like you to conform at times. Once again, there's certain quality of life options. You can speed up the battle, there's the metal slimes, there's different things that you can do, but you don't want to gut it down to essentially nothing. And I think that's what Toxic is saying here, is that there are options between buffs and debuffs and doing different armor pieces and different quests that make the game not so hard, and it'll actually make a better experience. Now, if you don't care about Dragon Quest, you just want to get through to see the story, you can always just watch the game on YouTube. But if you want the game to be played for you, then that's not something that's going to happen. But I understand it does seem like I'm kind of going on one way, but you guys know how I feel about JRPGs and about grinding and stuff like that, or at least some of you guys know. I like to do that. If you're fighting against a world power, you're going to have to build up just a bit. If your battle system is goated, if your battle system is dope, like Metaphor, like Shin Megami Tensei, like Xenoblade, like some of the best RPGs out there, it'll go by just like nothing. I'm 130 hours plus into Metaphor ReFantazio, and I am not tired one bit of the battle system, because they keep on introducing new archetypes, new different abilities, different customization options, different weapons, armor, everything that I can do to customize it. And the difficulty is there for me to actually take the time to customize so I can beat said bosses or all that. So to me, this is one of those things to where it seems like they don't necessarily love when it comes to Dragon Quest, but a 3 out of 5 is ridiculous in my opinion. Like, just because you didn't get a few modern features and all that, like, I don't know, man. The music, the graphics, the gameplay, everything that I've seen, what people are sharing, it is minimum an 8 out of 10. I don't think it's all the way down to a 3 or a 6 out of 10. I think that's just a ridiculous score for not having a few different modern options to make the game play itself, or whatever the case is, or make it super easy. But I get it. I get it overall. I get what some people are saying about that, but that's my opinion. I know a lot of you guys might disagree. Some people just hate grinding in games, or don't like to actually know how to play the game efficiently enough to where you don't have to grind and you can do different things, because that stuff takes a lot of depth. So I get it. Not trying to hate on those people that do like it like that, but I'm just saying this is where TM and this is where a lot of the Dragon Quest fans like myself are coming from with this. So I wanted to discuss it. But yeah, Eurogamer's review wasn't the only one. I went over a few reviews in my review roundup that talked about that as well. But let's get into the next topic here, guys, because we have a big launch of a Nintendo Switch exclusive in Japan. We got the first details on the sales of that, and that is Mario and Luigi Brothership and PlayStation 5 Pro in just a bit. So let's get into Mario and Luigi Brothership first. The game sold 63,441 retail copies, not including digital in Japan, for the past week. And that right there, if you look at it overall, I'll put up a chart for you guys. One of the lower sales debuts overall for Japan for Mario and Luigi. If you include digital sales, probably tack on another 20 to 40K, somewhere in that range. Definitely not a massive launch for it. And I would probably attribute it to, one, it being Mario and Luigi, which Mario and Luigi, it's great and all of that, but we've already had two other big major RPG Mario games released in the last year. Between the end of last year with Super Mario RPG, which had a huge launch in Japan, and then Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door as well, which was earlier in May. I think that there's definitely a little bit of saturation when it comes to people buying the Mario RPGs. People are still buying Super Mario RPG and still enjoying that game. Plus, Paper Mario just came out, and that game is already past what the original game did on the GameCube, already over 2 million units worldwide. So there's definitely plenty of Mario RPG games. But the one thing about Mario and Luigi Brothership, or the one thing about Mario and Luigi franchise, they always have long legs. And I think that this is going to be one of those games that absolutely people play down the line. I don't think they're going to be popping out Mario and Luigi games all the time. So 2, 3, 4 years from now, I think there's still going to be a decent amount of sales as more and more people kind of pick it up. And I'll say this, the Mario and Luigi fan base, they're already kind of putting this game in cult hit territory with some of the stuff that it does and comparing it. Now, it's not the greatest in terms of everything with Mario and Luigi, the series overall, but there's a number of things when it comes to boss battles, combat, and different stuff overall that a lot of the core Mario and Luigi fans are excited about. People are going to pick it up for Christmas, whatever the case is, getting it for their birthday. So I do feel that this game will have a long tail life when it comes to overall sales, not just Japan, but worldwide. Now, let's get into the PlayStation 5 Pro. That's another big thing. And I saw people all of a sudden, here we go. Now we're talking about Japanese sales again. People that don't mention Japanese sales, haven't mentioned anything for quite some time, now want to talk about Japanese sales and say one thing or another with it. Usually trying to say, oh, look, it did really good. And that's fine. I'm looking at the sales. I look at them every single week, and everyone's allowed to look at them if you want to look at them or not. So the PS5 Pro sold 78,086 units in its launch week. And if you total up all of the PS5 units combined, it sold 95,160 units. The regular PlayStation 5 sold 8,571 units, and the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition sold 1,503 units. And if you look at the total software, there's only one game on the PlayStation 5 in the top 10, and that is the new Slitterhead game from Bokeh Game Studios, which are the former Sony Japan studio that made stuff like Gravity Rush and so many of the great games that were on previous PlayStation platforms. And the PlayStation fanbase did not show up at all to support the former Japan studio games. Like, this is just very sad that Slitterhead did this bad. Only 4,697 units, couldn't even crack 10K on its debut for a brand new IP that definitely didn't review the best overall, but still had some promise. I thought that maybe it'd do a little bit better than this, but it didn't really do that. Now, the PS5 Pro overall, 78,000, if you compare it to some of the other relaunches or new models, the Nintendo Switch OLED sold significantly more, but the PS5 Pro, it's very expensive in Japan. There's already been numerous price increases for the PlayStation 5 in Japan, and the PS5 Pro obviously is more expensive than the base PS5 and the PS5 All Digital Edition. But yeah, people were saying, oh, that's really good, especially if you compare it to the PS4 Pro, which launched, I think, about 10K plus or so less back when it came out in 2018 or whenever it did. But 78,000 units and not even being able to crack 100K with a brand new big model launch, that's not necessarily incredible. I'm not trying to be negative on it. I just don't think 78,000 units for a big launch, even if it is a more expensive system, a big launch that's hyped up. I thought maybe more of the hardcore dedicated base would go out there and buy it, maybe getting up to about 100K for just the PS5 Pro by itself, and then total up everything, maybe about 120K or so with all the models combined. But it didn't even crack 100K with all the models combined with a big launch of a new model variant, which usually whenever you have a new model variant, you will get 100K total. Like, you will get 100K total most of the time, but that did not happen here when it comes to the PS5 Pro. So while it's not terrible, I don't think the sales are absolutely awful overall. I don't find 78K for the big launch of a PS5 Pro variant model to be super impressive. It's just okay. It's just okay. But we'll see how it goes in the future. I think that 78K is going to dwindle considerably over the next number of weeks. But we'll see how it goes into the holiday. I think holiday sales are always a bit more, but I think the real test is going to be like afterwards. But nobody's really saying that the PS5 Pro is going to be some type of massive, huge juggernaut when it comes to sales. It's an enthusiast system for the hardcore base, and that's who they're selling this system to. So it's going to do whatever the case is when it comes to that. It's going to be a low percentage overall of the sales, just like the PS4 Pro is, just like the Xbox One X was, just like pretty much any of the premium models that we've gotten released afterwards is, with the exception of the Nintendo Switch OLED, which is more of a side step than a forward step when it comes down to it. But yeah, I think that it was okay. And obviously seeing the software so far, we got the top 10. It was all Nintendo Switch games. Mario and Luigi Brothership, Super Mario Party Jamboree, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Romancing Saga. Good to see Romancing Saga stay in at number 3. Battle Spirits, brand new game released from Fudiyu. Minecraft, Animal Crossing, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. Good to see that game continuing. That's almost at 300K plus, physical only in Japan. And Nintendo Switch Sports in at number 10. So what do you guys think overall when it comes to everything here? With the controversy with Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, Mario and Luigi Brothership sales, kind of disappointing, but let's see what happens in the future. And of course, the sales for the PS5 Pro, the debut launch sales for PS5 Pro, and the lack of software when it comes to software sales with PS5, despite 95,000 units being sold. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.